Adele Reamer is an original resident of Kibbutz Nerim. But the backdrop of all of this is that Adele tells the story of living in peace with her Gazan Muslim neighbors until this unbelievable nightmare erupted. On May the 5th, 2024, in churches across America, Eagles Wings partnered with the Moral Hearts Alliance in what we called Solidarity Sunday. Solidarity Sunday brought over survivors of the October 7th massacre so that we could bear witness to the atrocities that were committed by Hamas against innocent Israeli civilians on October the 7th. Interestingly, providentially, May the 5th coincided with Holocaust Remembrance Day. The nations of the earth for 75 years have been putting out the slogan, never again. But certainly never again is now. We see an alarming rise of anti-Semitism that we have not seen since the days of Hitler's rise to power. I want to invite you to hear the testimony of these survivors of the October 7th massacre on Solidarity Sunday, as we bear witness and we commit ourselves not only to the slogan of never again, but to living lifestyles as watchmen on the wall to commit to the safety of the Jewish people and of the state of Israel. Adele Reamer is an original resident of Kibbutz Nerim, right near the Gaza border. In Adele's words, her DNA changed on October the 7th. Adele hid in her safe room with her adult son. Her son-in-law had her 3 grandchildren in a safe room and chased terrorists and killed some, and then went back to keep his children safe. But the backdrop of all of this is that Adele tells the story of living in peace with her Gazan Muslim neighbors before this. They would share holidays together. They visited the beach and swam together in the water in Gaza. They were living together in peaceful coexistence until this unbelievable nightmare erupted on October the 7th. Bear witness with me as we hear the story of Adele Reamer.
My name is Adele. I was born in the USA. I was a member of the Zionist youth movement in my youth, and I made Aliyah. I went to live in Israel at Kibbutz Keturah when I was 19 years old, in the wake of the Yom Kippur War, because I had come back to the States from being in Israel for a year, and I fell in love with the place, but I came back to the United States to go to university, like all good Jewish girls do. And then the Yom Kippur War broke out, and I said, well, what am I doing in the States? Israel needs me. I was immediately inducted into the army, and I arrived at Kibbutz Nerim in 1975 as part of my army service. I am a mother and I'm a grandmother, a teacher of English as a foreign language, just retired this year, and a teacher trainer, a trained medical clown. Do you know what that is? Medical clown, red nose going to hospitals. And because of who I am and the way I deal with stuff, I don't do victim well. I've become an unwitting war correspondent. 6:30 that morning, we started getting a massive barrage of incoming rockets. Now, Kibbutz Nerim is about 1 mile away from the border with the Gaza Strip, and that means that when you hear that red alert, that female voice saying, Tseva Adom, code red, you know that you have 0 to 10 seconds to get to someplace safe. From the second you hear that alert till the second you hear an explosion. 10 seconds. 0 to 10. I'm 69 years old, but I run real fast. So when I heard that alarm, I popped out of my bed. I ran to the safe room. Every community within 7 kilometers of the border has to have a safe room with concrete walls and ceiling and a special iron sleeve on the window that you have to close when there's a rocket attack to prevent shrapnel from coming in. and a special iron door that you close and you click closed so that if the house is impacted elsewhere, it doesn't implode and blow the door open. So I ran to my safe room, and within a few minutes, we started getting messages saying Israel has been invaded. Go outside, lock your doors and your windows, go back into your safe room and lock yourselves in the safe room. The only problem with that is the safe room does not lock. The safe room was built to keep us safe from rockets, not from infiltration. And what we didn't realize at the time, when we were having all those barrages that were going from north of us to south of where we were, that all of those rockets were just camouflage for the main event that was going on along the border at tens of spots along the border where thousands of terrorists were infiltrating at the same time. They infiltrated 22 communities, not just my community, 22 communities within the entire Western Negev were being invaded at the same time. And we're getting no official information, nothing. The only way I was able to understand what was going on, I turned off the TV. Usually when there's an escalation, I have a TV in the room next to me, and I turn it on to keep track of what's going on in the rest of the country, but now I was in survival mode. I had to figure out what was going on here in my community. So I turned the TV off, and the only way I'm getting information is through my phone. And 430 people live in my community. I know where they all live. I know all of them. And I'm following on my phone the progression of the terrorists as they're getting nearer and nearer to where my children live, to where my grandchildren live, to where I am with my son. And people start saying, writing on the phone, on this messaging program, we hear shooting outside. We hear Arabic outside. And there's nothing that we can do. Each family was on their own. That was the only information that we got. It will take a while for this army to reach you. Each family is on their own. And at one point, I start seeing messages saying, they're entering our house, they're setting our house on fire, they're trying to break into our safe room. And then we hear noise outside our house, and we hear Arabic outside our house, and we hear shooting outside our house. And my son, who understands a little bit Arabic, said, they're saying to come away. Somebody's calling them away in Arabic. I looked at my son, and he looked at me, and we told each other that we loved each other, and basically said goodbye. I had no idea what was going on with my grandchildren, no idea where my daughter was. My daughter separated from her husband, so I knew that the grandchildren were with their dad. About an hour after we heard this noise, I was in physical pain already from not going to the bathroom. The safe room does not have a bathroom, it doesn't have water. So I opened my safe room door very quietly and stepped outside to be sure that there's no terrorists there. And I saw the slats on my window had been broken. That's what we heard. The terrorists were literally on my front porch, starting to break into our house. At the same time, my grandchildren were in the house with my son-in-law. He was armed. He's one of the first responders, but he couldn't go out to be with the other first responders because he had my 3 young grandchildren in the house with him. And he hears the terrorists outside. And he hears them entering his house, and he hears them screaming and shouting and breaking things. And he tells my granddaughters, lie under the blankets, cover yourselves with the blankets. You're going to hear a loud noise. Don't come out from under the blankets no matter what happens. When he saw the handle on the door starting to move, he kicked open the door and shot a terrorist right in front of the safe room. And what you're going to hear now is a recording of his calls for help.
תסלחו כוחות אליי הביתה דחוף. דחוף, 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 לשכונה שלי דחוף. נטרלתי מחבל אחד דחוף לשכונה שלי, מי שאפשר. היה לי מחבל בבית אחד, הרגתי אותו, מוכן לעוד.
You know, when I was a kid growing up in New York, we used to watch Hogan's Heroes. I don't know if you know that program. And I used to play, where would I hide if the Nazis come to get me? Never did I imagine that I would find myself and my grandchildren hiding from the Nazis of 2023 in our own homeland. This is Judy. I've known Judy for decades. We were close friends and colleagues. We both taught in the same school. The funniest person you ever want to know. And kind. She taught mindfulness in addition to English. Judy used to go out with her husband on sunrise walks. And when the rockets started, we were in a WhatsApp group with the other English teachers, and we were writing to each other, what's going on, this is crazy, there's so many rockets. And what we got from her was this, which I thought was a picture. And I didn't pay too much attention to it because, again, I was in survival mode trying to figure out what was going on around me. It was only days later when I was speaking to her children and I told them I have a picture that your mom sent. Do you want me to send it to you? They said, yes, please, because we're trying to figure out where they were in the fields when this happened. She was with her husband, Gaza. And I went back to look for the picture and I realized that it was a clip. And this is what we saw. So they were walking in the fields and they hear shooting in the distance. This is around a little bit after 6:30. And they're just hiding in the bushes under a tree. And she says, what's that? Moments after this, terrorists came on vehicles. They shot her husband, Gadi, and there's a recording that we have when they're talking to the emergency teams. And she's saying, my husband's been shot, I think he's dead. He's been shot in the head, I've been shot in the hand and the arm, you have to come save us. They were listed as having been kidnapped. So I put their names on the back of my dog tag so that I could give it back to them when they come. They're not coming. We were notified in December that they were both slaughtered on October 7th. Baby Kai, on October 7th, there were many tragedies, but there were also a number of little miracles. So one of the messages that I was seeing in the WhatsApp group was that Amy and Uriel are screaming for help, saying the terrorists are in our house, they're setting our house on fire, we have a 10-day baby in our house, Kai. Her mother was visiting, so she was holding Kai, and Amy and Uriel were fighting the terrorists to keep that door locked. The terrorists didn't manage to infiltrate their safe room, but they did manage to dislodge the door from the frame a little bit, just enough so that when they set the house on fire, the smoke went streaming into the safe room, and they were on the phone talking to the security people, saying, where is the IDF? Where are the fire department? Where are the police? Where are the people that are supposed to be coming to save us? Crickets. They were told by the people on the other side of the phone, open the window just a little bit if it's quiet outside, and put Kai on the windowsill so that he gets a little bit fresh air. And if you hear terrorists outside, close it and put him low down on the ground because smoke rises. What you see on the right is what was left of their house in the end. He's okay. They're okay. So, this all started at 6:30 in the morning. The first boots on the ground that we had in our community was at 1:30, 7 hours after this nightmare began. And this is another one of the little miracles. The soldier directly behind me, I took a selfie with them just when they came and evacuated my son and me from our house. The soldier in the middle told me they were supposed to have gone to another kibbutz, but when they heard Amy and Oriel's cries for help, that they had a 10-day-old baby in a burning house, they said, we gotta get to Nirim. So that 10-day-old baby saved so many people. And they went house to house, evacuating, first of all, the corner of the kibbutz that was being burnt, that was on fire, that was in the most dire danger. And then they went house to house throughout the kibbutz, extricated us from the houses, being sure that there were no more terrorists around, and walked us to the community center where we stayed until the following day. So this is what the neighborhood where Kai and his family lived looked like before October 7th, and this is what it looked like after. So that's baby Kai and his parents, and he's wonderful and healthy and happy and laughing. As are my 3 grandchildren, who I almost lost that day. Because if my son-in-law had not been armed, they would have either been slaughtered or kidnapped. Kibbutz Nirim today is considered a red community because of the proximity of where we are and the casualties. So only 5 people were kidnapped. Think about that. Only 5 people. That's a crazy thing to say, isn't it? Only 5 people. So 5 people were kidnapped, 5 slaughtered, 30 of our buildings were destroyed, 45 severely damaged, and emotional and psychological trauma is rife. And these were our casualties that day. Hannah is Nadav's mother. They were in the house, 3 houses down from where I live. They were kidnapped to Gaza. On the bottom, Ro'i, that's her son, his brother. He was slaughtered outside his house, on the other side of the kibbutz. Nahora was visiting. She didn't live on Nirim. She was visiting Doron and Mo, father and daughter, who were slaughtered. Nahora was another part of the kibbutz with her partner Gedon, who was also slaughtered. Nahora was kidnapped. Gedon also did not live on the kibbutz. He thought he could get away quickly enough. He packed his bags as soon as the incoming rocket alert started, and was incinerated as he was trying to put the bags into the car. Yagev and Rimon, a newlywed couple, were kidnapped from their house. And Oran was also a visitor who I did not know personally. He was visiting his girlfriend, holding down the handle to his safe room, protecting his girlfriend, when the terrorists shot through the door and shot him and he wouldn't have died. His wound wasn't that serious, but it took so long for the troops to get there that he bled to death. And today, still today, Nadav and Yagev are in Gaza, in the hell of the terror tunnels. 212 days, and I wear it on my, whatever I'm wearing. Each day, I write the number so that I don't forget, and so that people who see me don't forget that there are 2 of our people together with 131 other people, innocent men, women, children from Israel. In the Jewish faith, we say, each person is a universe unto himself. 133 universes are captive in Gaza, just for being Jews. So we're now refugees in our own land. I cannot live at home. This is my house, October 6th. On October 8th, we were all evacuated to a hotel in Eilat. And we were there for 3.5 months. Welcomed warmly, treated wonderfully. But a hotel is not a place where you can really live sanely with families for 3.5 months. So we were moved to Beersheba, but the apartments that we got in Beersheba were not ready in time for the date that the children had to be ready to go to school in January 28th. They all had to be in Beersheba. Their houses weren't ready yet. So these children who experienced the trauma of October 7th and then the trauma of being 3.5 months in a hotel in Eilat were moved to another hotel in Beersheba until their apartments were ready. And finally, we all got apartments in Beersheba, and they went to the schools, and we're trying to keep our lives together as best we can. So the challenges that we faced an existential threat to our bodies on October 7th. Today, we face an existential threat to our community, because we're spread out among 4 different neighborhoods in Beersheba. It's not like when you're on kibbutz. You're on kibbutz, you open the door, you go outside, you go to the little store, you see people, you meet people, you go to the community center, you have a cup of coffee. In Beersheba, we have to make it happen. We have to work really hard to be able to preserve community so that we have a community left to go back to our kibbutz when we can finally go back. And we're dispersed around Beersheba, and preserving that community unity is vital, because community builds resilience, and resilience is the name of the game. And all of us, the hell that we went through on October 7th, we still have to find the wherewithal to support our families, of our hostages, of our murdered friends, because they need our help too, and we have to find the strength to do that as well. And returning home, we don't know. I don't believe that all of the families are going to come back. A mile away from the border with Gaza is a scary place to be after experiencing October 7th, seeing what happened, the slaughters that went on October 7th. We'll have to see. I'll go back. I'm not sure my grandchildren will be able to go back with their mom. And that might be one of the most significant things that were stolen from me on October 7th, my family living 2 minutes away from me. So we were pioneers then, and we have to be pioneers again. That is the remaining wall in the dining room of the community that we built in 1946 after it was attacked in 48, when the Egyptians attacked on the first day after Israel was declared a state. And the sign that was left on that wall says, Lo hatanki netzech ki im ha'adam. The tank will not be victorious, it's the person. So the people now in my community, we are going to be victorious. We have to be volunteers again. Because we're the front line of the country. We have to be pioneers again because we are the breadbasket of the country. And I'm told that the first 2 weeks of the war, Tel Aviv didn't have tomatoes because we couldn't go out and pick them. Factories, innovation in agriculture and industry, all that happens in our region. And we have to send a message to the country and to the Jews of the world, of the Jews of the diaspora, that we are strong, we are resilient, we are going back. And what message will that send our enemies if, God forbid, we don't go back? So we're going to be returning home, building it bigger and better. And because we are doing this on Memorial Day, I found an excerpt from the diary of the grandmother of a personal friend who was a child in Poland. She was a child in Poland, but this is from when she was in university in Poland. Because guess what? It started in academia. L meant left side, and it meant that all Jewish students had to sit on the left side of the auditorium, while all the others had the letter P, which in Polish means right. And so we're sitting on the right side of the auditorium. It made us second-class citizens. So we would refuse to sit there, but we were not allowed to sit with the others. So instead, we chose to stand in the back of the auditorium. But this meant that they knew exactly who was Jewish and who was not. So think about that. It started in academia and what's going on in our colleges today. So Israel has 2 Memorial Days. Yom HaZikaron, Holocaust Memorial Day, to remind us the cost, Yom HaZikaron, Fallen Soldiers Memorial Day, to remind us the cost of having Israel. And Yom HaShoah, which is today, Holocaust Remembrance Day, to remind us the cost of not. So I would like to thank you for walking with us. I appreciate the prayers that were said over us before this gathering began. I appreciate your prayers. We appreciate your prayers. And I'd like to invite all of you to stand with us against evil.
I know that this testimony has touched your heart. It has filled you with a fresh perspective that can only come from hearing from the heart, the mind, the story of those who have endured this atrocity. Eagle's Wings is committed to staying on the front lines of this battle. Sadly, October the 7th did not start on October the 7th. This battle for the existence of the state of Israel goes all the way back even before the founding of the state in May of 1948. There has been, within the hearts of radicalized Islam, a violence against the Jewish people that knows no bounds. I want to invite you to click the link and go to our Frontlines page, and you will see firsthand what Eagle's Wings is doing day by day on the front lines in Israel. We are there through our Abraham's Bread feeding centers, through our United Hatzalah outreach, through our Forest of Life program, which is working with disadvantaged youth who are being sheltered right now in the middle of the hills of Judea. You want to get involved with this effort, go right now to the Frontlines page and let me know that you're standing with us as we make a difference for Israel and the Jewish people. And if you haven't yet done so, click on the links and listen to the stories of the other survivors that brought forth this powerful testimony on Solidarity Sunday.